wise. What makes a wise young man?
God.
God? I mean, that's the number one answer. There's a lot of answers, I would imagine. You being prayerful and listening to your elders and being humble. So that's kind of what happened at the end of chapter 2 as they get promoted. And what's King Nebuchadnezzar's attitude as we get into chapter 3? In chapter 3, it starts off, he makes something.
He's very arrogant and very self-absorbed.
He's arrogant and self-absorbed. So he sees this power of God through Daniel to tell him his dream and interpret his dream. But it comes into chapter 3, and he's arrogant. But he wants to do something. What does he?
Read it this time around. He makes a gold statue. Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that Daniel told him that he was the head of gold on the statue of his dream?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. That's a good point. Why do you think after this dream he interpreted? Well, what was the dream with the tall statue that he interpreted? Remember, it had a head of gold and a chest of silver, waist of bronze, and then leg of irons and clay.
So Daniel told him that the gold was his kingdom.
Yes.
And that the silver, the bronze, the iron, were going to be kingdoms that were going to replace his kingdom. And he decided with this that, no, this is going to be my kingdom always. I will rule always.
So you don't think he learned from that dream?
No.
He didn't learn anything from it. I think what he learned is that that's a good idea. That's what I think he learned. A statue? That's a great idea. I think I'll make one of those. I think I'll make it in my honor. What do you think the statue was of, though? It doesn't really say, does it?
Statue saw this tree was big like it.
Do you think it was of the king?
I think so.
You think it was a god? A lot of times they make statues that's of a god. It doesn't really say. Knowing King Nebuchadnezzar is probably him.
Probably a statue of him.
Yeah.
Because he just very, very, very prideful.
Right. How tall is this?
90.
90 feet. So it's in the plains of Dura, in a valley between mountains. You think you'd be able to see this for quite a ways away? Can you imagine when there's no tall buildings? I heard recently in all of Somalia, there's like one 10-story building. Anybody ever been to Kauai in Hawaii? It's the smallest island. It's the most remote, but it only has one 3-story building. They don't allow any buildings over 3-story there because they want to preserve the natural habitat there and the tree line. But can you imagine in the plains where there's a 90-foot statue and nothing else, taller than the people or maybe a 1-story building? I Googled it. How many miles away do you think you can see that? With clear skies and atmosphere clear. 35 miles. Up to 35 miles. So you'd be able to see that for quite a ways. It would be very impressive. So it's a 9, probably if they had a stand, it would be more over a 10-story tall building. And this is what we talked about, the dream in chapter 22. I think it had something to do with it. I think it just sparked something in the king. That dream that Daniel interpreted, like, okay, I think that's actually a pretty good idea. I think I'll do that. But what did he require? He said, "O peoples of every language, nation, every man, at the moment you hear the sound of music," and then he went through a list of all the different instruments. And I'm not sure the purpose of that, and I'm not sure why it continues to list all those instruments every time. Maybe just to make it loud. Hey, I'll just get every instrument I can find and we'll just make music so it can be heard everywhere. Just like the statue can be seen, he wants everyone to be able to hear the music. And I'm not sure exactly the logistics of that and how they all would have heard it at the same time. But either way, he says when you hear the music, all you people of every language, that means everybody they've conquered, all their slaves, everyone that lives there, shall bow down and worship this idol, or the king. Otherwise, they'll be cast immediately into the furnace. That's pretty harsh. Do you think, here's just a question, do you think the king was behind this, or do you think his officials were behind this?
Probably.
Little both?
I think it was his king, because he called the officials and told them what he
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah. Did the officials maybe take advantage of it later? Yeah. Why do you think the other wise man tattled on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? So here, the music plays, and of course Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego do not bow down. Because they know, hopefully they know their Old Testament. They know the law. They're not supposed to put any idol before God, right? Not to bow down to any idol or worship any idol. So they don't. And then they're tattled on. Who tattled on? The other wise men. The other wise men. So here you have Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They're foreigners. They're young. And they get promoted over who? They get promoted over everyone else. All the other wise men. All of a sudden, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are promoted over them. You have Daniel, who is basically second, isn't he? And then you have Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who are over provinces. And then you have all the other wise men who are basically under them now. Think there's a little jealousy going on?
Oh, yeah.
So immediately, when they notice that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego aren't bowing down, what do?
They run and tell the king.
They go tattle on them. Do we sometimes become jealous of other people's success? Yeah? Do we get jealous when someone gets a new car or a new home? Hopefully not. Hopefully we're just happy for them. Deanne will verify this. We've known people, we've known a family who had girls, sisters, and a couple of them were having babies, and the one was not having babies. And she was so jealous of the other two, or one, I can't remember. She was not happy for them when they were having babies. She couldn't be happy for someone else because of her own situation. And that's how bad jealousy and envy can affect us. So we're not happy for someone else's success. Matter of fact, you get to the point where you wish them harm. She probably got to the point where she wished maybe that they wouldn't have babies, which is wishing evil and harm on somebody. So can you imagine that? Feeling that way in your own heart. It's not godly. And here are some principles. Wrath is cruel. Anger is overwhelming. We know wrath and anger. But look at who can stand before jealousy? That says that jealousy is way worse than wrath and anger. Because what does wrath and anger do? Sometimes you can get in a fight and beat someone up. Most of the time what guys do when they get angry is they come and they punch a wall. And they just hurt themselves. But anger or jealousy is so much worse. A tranquil heart gives life to flesh, but envy makes the bones rot. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, or his wife, or his servants, or his oxen, or donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. And covet is to the point where you not only want it, you wish they didn't have it.
I think of jealousy, it puts jealousy last, but jealousy is actually what breeds wrath and anger.
Sure, they can.
So it's like the bottom line is you can't stand before jealousy because it's going to breed those two consequences into you.
Yeah.
Jealousy is you wanting something really bad, you might say. Envy is if you can't have it, you don't want them to have it.
Yeah.
And covetousness is when it becomes an idol. It's overwhelming, you might say.
So almost progression, jealousy, envy, covetousness, yeah. A wise man once told me, I had a nice tie on, a wise man once said to me, I wish I had that tie and you were dead.
Wow.
It was just a joke. Hey, I wasn't naming names.
That's a man joke.
It was a nice time.
And James 3 says, but if you have a bitter jealousy or selfish ambition in your heart, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder in every vile practice. So, and that's kind of the point, is that jealousy can lead to so many different sins, to where you act on them. And that's kind of the point. But that's what these men did to Daniel. They were so jealous, they actually wished him dead and acted on that and figured out a way to have them killed. How did the king Nebuchadnezzar respond to the news that the men did not bow?
Extremely angry, very
Extremely raged, angry, yeah.
It's interesting, when these men came to the king, they said they have disregarded you. They do not serve your gods.
So they were almost provoking him.
They were saying, you know,
That's why I asked earlier, do you think they had something to do with setting up this statue and also the punishment for it? I think maybe they had their hand in it, because it could have been where they were helping to devise this plan, knowing that they would not bow to it. That's just a theory. But either way, they took advantage of it to have Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego killed. But they aggravated it by telling the king, like you said, notice they did not bow to your image. They didn't obey your command, and it just made him angry. Why do you think he had such rage and anger?
He got big ego and is prideful.
Ego, yeah.
A big ego.
Pride and ego.
About everything.
Because we know Nebuchadnezzar has a lot of that.
That's
It was
why.
pride and ego. Yeah. So what did he do next? Did he immediately throw him in the fire?
Cooked it up, made it hotter.
No, not yet. Tom?
Well, first he gave him another chance.
Yeah. He gave him another chance. That's not
That's
the
what
law. The
we
law
say.
was like you were supposed to immediately go into the fire. But instead of doing that,
Not too much good could be said about Nebuchadnezzar, but he did give him another chance.
offered him a second chance. Why did he do that?
So he did it.
Tom?
I think that's because Daniel, who he respected greatly, you know, these were his appointees.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, and so he wanted to make sure, I think, not to offend Daniel. And remember, Daniel's absent from this narrative here.
Yeah.
Okay, so either Daniel got a pass or they were afraid to accuse Daniel at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good insight, because Daniel's not mentioned, and I firmly believe that Daniel didn't bow down to these either. Tommy?
Probably right, because Nebuchadnezzar's showing favoritism towards Daniel. His little wise counsel would not want to, I guess, be thrown in the fire themselves, so to speak. However, the friends of Daniel were a different story, because they didn't have the same favoritism. That's probably why it's only these three you don't hear about Daniel.
Yeah. But he wanted to give him a second chance, I think, because he liked them.
Yeah, because
They were probably doing a good job over their provinces. They were wise men, like he said. And he probably just didn't want to immediately kill them. Sometimes when a king makes a law, it's written, it's stamped with his signature or his ring, and they have to follow through with it. They just have to. And so sometimes, until it gets to that point, he didn't realize the consequences of his law. until it gets to this, where I didn't actually think someone would not bow. And he's so egotistical and so prideful, he didn't even think that maybe there was a chance someone not bowing down to it. That's how blinded he is.
And we can see God's hand all over in this. He did the same thing with Joseph in Egypt.
Yeah.
You know, so he's taking real good care of these things, and
Yeah.
that's just a reminder for us that God is always in control, and he always knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And sin blinds us. King said, "But if you do not bow, who can deliver you out of my hands?" What God can deliver you out of my hands? What is he saying right here? That they worship their gods, right? But he's saying, now I'm better or bigger than all the gods.
A boss will do that too. A boss,
Yeah.
you know, lower management. I mean, you know, so you don't have to be a king and rule the world to have that mentality.
Yeah. You think about it just in our terms, like we can get our ego in positions of power and status. No one likes a boss like that, honestly.
Just a real cute quip is ego means easing God out. So if you've got a big ego, you're easing God out of the picture.
It's a good point. It's a good point. But what God can deliver you out of my hand? How arrogant is that? He was so prideful, he thought himself to be above all the gods. And apparently even the